Ontario Ontario is one of the 10 provinces of Canada, located in east-central Canada. It is Canada's most populous province by a large margin, accounting for nearly 40% of all Canadians, and is the second largest province in total area. Ontario is fourth largest in total area when the territories of the Northwest Territories and Nunavut are included. It is home to the nation's capital city, Ottawa, and the nation's most populous city, Toronto. Ontario is bordered by the province of Manitoba to the west, Hudson Bay and James Bay to the north, and Quebec to the east, and to the south by the U.S. states of Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania and New York. All of Ontario's 2,700 kilometers border with the United States follows inland waterways, from the west at Lake of the Woods, eastward along the major rivers and lakes of the Great Lakes, St. Lawrence River drainage system. These are the Rainy River, the Pigeon River, Lake Superior, the St. Mary's River, Lake Huron, the St. Clair River, Lake St. Clair, the Detroit River, Lake Erie, the Niagara River, Lake Ontario and along the St. Lawrence River from Kingston, Ontario, to the Quebec boundary just east of Cornwall, Ontario. Ontario is sometimes conceptually divided into two regions, Northern Ontario and Southern Ontario. The great majority of Ontario's population and arable land is located in the south. In contrast, the larger, northern part of Ontario is sparsely populated with very cold winters and is heavily forested. Etymology. The province is named after Lake Ontario, a term thought to be derived from Ontario, a Huron word meaning Great Lake, or possibly Scanadario, which means beautiful water, in the Iroquoian languages. Ontario has about 250,000 freshwater lakes. Geography. The province consists of three main geographical regions. The thinly populated Canadian Shield in the northwestern and central portions, which comprises over half the land area of Ontario. Although this area mostly does not support agriculture, it is rich in minerals and in part covered by the central and midwestern Canadian Shield forests, studded with lakes and rivers. Northern Ontario is subdivided into two subregions, Northwestern Ontario and Northeastern Ontario. The virtually unpopulated Hudson Bay lowlands in the extreme north and northeast, mainly swampy and sparsely forested. Southern Ontario, which is further subdivided into four regions, Central Ontario, Eastern Ontario, Golden Horseshoe and Southwestern Ontario. Despite the absence of any mountainous terrain in the province, there are large areas of uplands, particularly within the Canadian Shield, which traverses the province from northwest to southeast and also above the Niagara Escarpment, which crosses the south. The highest point is Ishpetina Ridge at 693 meters above sea level, located in Temagami, northeastern Ontario. In the south, elevations of over 500 meters are surpassed near Collingwood, above the Blue Mountains in the Dundalk Highlands and in hilltops near the Madawaska River in Renfrew County. The Carolinian forest zone covers most of the southwestern region of the province. The temperate and fertile Great Lakes St. Lawrence Valley in the south is part of the eastern Great Lakes lowland forests ecoregion, where the forest has now been largely replaced by agriculture, industrial and urban development. A well-known geographic feature is Niagara Falls, part of the Niagara Escarpment. The St. Lawrence Seaway allows navigation to and from the Atlantic Ocean as far inland as Thunder Bay in northwestern Ontario. Northern Ontario occupies roughly 87% of the surface area of the province. Conversely, Southern Ontario contains 94% of the population. Point Pelly is a peninsula of Lake Erie in southwestern Ontario that is the southernmost extent of Canada's mainland. Pelly Island and Middle Island in Lake Erie extend slightly farther. All are south of 42 degrees north, slightly farther south than the northern border of California. Climate. The climate of Ontario varies from seasonally and in different locations. It is affected by three air sources: cold, dry and Arctic air from the north, Pacific polar air crossing in from the western Canadian prairies, U.S. northern plains, and warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean. The effects of these major air masses on temperature and precipitation depend mainly on latitude, proximity to major bodies of water and, to a small extent, terrain relief. In general, most of Ontario's climate is classified as humid continental. Ontario has three main climatic regions. The surrounding Great Lakes greatly influence the climatic region of southern Ontario. During the fall and winter months, heat stored from the lakes is released, moderating the climate near the shores of the lakes. This makes some parts of southern Ontario have milder winters than mid-continental areas at lower latitudes. Parts of southwestern Ontario has a moderate humid continental climate, similar to that of the inland mid-Atlantic states and the Great Lakes portion of the Midwestern United States. The region has warm to hot, humid summers and cold winters. Annual precipitation ranges from 750 to 1,000 millimeters and is well distributed throughout the year. Most of this region lies in the lee of the Great Lakes, making for abundant snow in some areas. In December 2010, the snow belt set a new record when it was hit by more than a meter of snow within 48 hours. The next climatic region is central and eastern Ontario, which has a moderate humid continental climate. This region has warm and sometimes hot summers with colder, longer winters. Ample snowfall and annual precipitation similar to the rest of southern Ontario. In the northeastern parts of Ontario, extending far as south as Kirkland Lake, the cold waters of Hudson Bay depress summer temperatures, making it cooler than other locations at similar latitudes. The same is true on the northern shore of Lake Superior, which cools hot humid air from the south, leading to cooler summer temperatures. Along the eastern shores of Lake Superior and Lake Huron, winter temperatures are slightly moderated but come with frequent heavy lake effect snow. Squalls that increase seasonal snowfall totals upwards of 3 meters in some places. These regions have higher annual precipitation, in some cases over 100 centimeters. The northernmost parts of Ontario, primarily north of 50 degrees north, have a subarctic climate with long, severely cold winters and short, cool to warm summers with dramatic temperature changes possible in all seasons. With no major mountain ranges blocking sinking Arctic air masses, temperatures of -40 degrees Celsius are not uncommon. Snowfall remains on the ground for sometimes over half the year. Snowfall accumulation can be high in some areas. Precipitation is generally less than 70 centimeters and peaks in the summer months in the form of showers or thunderstorms. Severe thunderstorms peak in summer. London, situated in southern Ontario, has the most lightning strikes per year in Canada, averaging 34 days of thunderstorm activity per year. In a typical year, Ontario averages 11 confirmed tornado touchdowns. However, over the last 4 years, it has had upwards of 20 tornado touchdowns per year, with the highest frequency occurring in the Windsor-Essex, Chatham-Kent area, though few are very destructive. Ontario had a record 29 tornadoes in both 2006 and 2009. Tropical depression remnants occasionally bring heavy rains and winds in the south but are rarely deadly. A notable exception was Hurricane Hazel, which struck southern Ontario centered on Toronto in October 1954.